Wyoming Territory, 1882. A widow's bleeding hands clutched 3 stolen potatoes, while her 5 children pressed against her in the darkness. The youngest hadn't spoken in 11 days. The oldest had a knife hidden in his boot. And the rancher descending those cellar stairs had every right to shoot her where she stood. What he did instead would cost him everything: his peace, his solitude, his carefully guarded heart. This is a story of desperation, redemption, and love, found in the last place anyone expected. Stay until the end and comment your city. I want to see how far this reaches. The cellar door groaned open. Clara Whitmore stopped breathing. "Mama?" Henry's hand found the knife in his boot. "I'll hold him off. You run with the others." "No!" Clara grabbed his wrist. "Nobody moves!" Behind her, Emma pulled the twins closer. William whimpered. Thomas clamped a hand over his brother's mouth, and Rose, 4 years old, hollow-eyed, silent, just stared at nothing. Boots on the steps. Heavy. Slow. A man taking his time. Clara's fingers tightened on the stolen potatoes. 3 of them. Sprouted. Half-rotten. Enough to keep her children alive one more day. If she lived long enough to cook them. The lantern light hit her face. She didn't flinch. "Well?" A low voice rough as river stones. "Ain't this something?" She could see him now. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Rifle in one hand, lantern in the other. A scar running from his left temple into his hairline. Eyes that had seen too much and decided not to care anymore. "Please," Clara said. You weren't stealing my potatoes." He stepped closer. "Because that's exactly what you're doing, ma'am." "They're rotten. You'd have fed them to pigs." "Might have." He set the lantern on a shelf, didn't put down the rifle. "Might not. Point is, they're mine." Clara lifted her chin. Her legs shook, her stomach cramped, but she'd be damned if she'd cower. "Then call the sheriff. Have us arrested." Her voice came out steady. "At least the jail's warm?" Something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Something else. "How many? What young'uns?" He nodded toward the shadows behind her. "How many you got hiding back there?" Henry stepped forward, knife drawn. 10 years old and ready to kill. "Stay back, mister." The man looked at the knife, looked at Henry, didn't raise the rifle. "That your daddy's blade?" Henry's jaw tightened. "Was." "He teach you to use it." "Taught me enough." "Then he taught you not to draw unless you mean to cut." The man's voice was calm. "You mean to cut me, boy." Henry's hand trembled. Clara saw the war on his face, fear fighting fury, a child trying to be a man. "Henry." She touched his shoulder. "Put it away." "But Mama." "Now." The knife disappeared into his boot. Henry's eyes stayed hard. The man turned back to Clara. "I'll ask again. How many? 5. No point in lying. Henry's 10. Emma's 8. The twins are 6. Rose is 4. 5 young'uns." He said it like he was counting bullets. "And you're stealing rotten potatoes in the dead of winter." "I'm keeping them alive. By breaking into a stranger's cellar. By any means necessary." They stared at each other. The lantern flame guttered. Somewhere above, the wind howled. Then he did something Clara didn't expect. He leaned the rifle against the wall. "Name's Jacob Hawkins," he said. "This is my land." Clara Whitmore. "Where's Mr. Whitmore?" "Dead, 3 months." "And you're out here alone. 5 young'uns, middle of January. No man." "I had a plan." Clara's voice cracked despite herself. "My brother in Cheyenne. He was supposed to meet us." "Let me guess. Miller's Creek." She didn't answer. "Sheriff Grady run you out?" Still nothing. "Yeah." Jacob's jaw tightened. "He's good at that. Running out folks who need help most." "We don't need help." "Lady, you're standing in my cellar holding stolen potatoes while your children freeze behind you." He almost smiled. Almost. "I'd say you need help plenty." Emma stepped out of the shadows. 8 years old, thin as a rail, eyes too old for her face. 5 days, she said. Jacob looked at her. What's that? Since we ate proper. Mama asked how long. It's been 5 days. Emma's chin lifted same stubborn angle as her mother's. We ate snow yesterday. Didn't help. Emma. It's true, Mama. You said lying's a sin. Jacob crouched down to Emma's level. His knees cracked. Old wounds, Clara thought. War wounds. What's your name? Emma Whitmore. You always this honest, Emma Whitmore. Papa said truth matters more than comfort. Smart man, your papa. Jacob stood. Come on, all of you, out of this cellar. Clara didn't move. Why? Because there's stew on my stove getting cold. Because there's a blizzard coming that'll bury us by morning. He picked up the lantern. And because your little girl back there, the quiet one, she ain't looking too good. Rose. Clara spun around. Rose stood exactly where she'd been swaying slightly, her face chalk white. Rose, Rose baby. No response, just those empty eyes staring at nothing. How long she been like that? Jacob asked. She stopped talking 11 days ago. After... Clara's throat closed. After we left Colorado. She's sick. I don't know. She just stopped. Jacob crossed to Rose and knelt in front of her. The little girl didn't react, didn't blink, didn't move. Hey there, little one. His voice dropped gentle in a way that surprised Clara. You in there somewhere? Nothing. I got stew upstairs, beef and potatoes. Real potatoes, not the rotten kind your mama found. He paused. You hungry? For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Rose's eyes focused. Just for a second. She looked at Jacob, really looked at him, and whispered, Is it hot? Clara's knees nearly buckled. Yeah, darlin'. Jacob's voice was rough. It's hot. I'm so cold. I know. Come on now, let's get you warm. He stood and held out his hand. Rose looked at it, looked at Clara. Then her small fingers wrapped around his and she let him lead her toward the stairs. Clara stood frozen. Mama? William tugged her sleeve. Can we go too? I'm scared down here. Me too, Thomas added. It's dark. Mama? Emma's voice was uncertain. Is it safe? Clara looked at her children. Henry with his hidden knife and warrior eyes. Emma with her painful honesty. The twins clinging to each other. And Rose holding a stranger's hand for the first time in weeks. Yeah, baby. Clara picked up the stolen potatoes. It's safe. She didn't believe it, but she followed anyway. The cabin was small. One-room stone fireplace table with 2 chairs, a bed in the corner. But it was warm. God, it was warm and clean, and the fire crackled with steady heat. Rose stood by the hearth, staring at the flames like she'd never seen fire before. Sit, Jacob said. All of you, by the fire. The children obeyed. Even Henry, though he sat with his back to the wall, watching Jacob's every move. Clara stayed standing. Jacob was at the stove ladling stew into bowls. 6 bowls, like he'd known they were coming. You live alone? Clara asked. Yep. But you made stew for 6. Made stew for me. Big pot. Lasts the week. He set the bowls on the table. Sit down, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll eat after the children. You'll eat now. I don't take orders from... Your hands are shaking so bad you can barely stand. Jacob's voice was flat. You eat now, or you collapse in an hour, and those young'uns got nobody. Your choice. Clara wanted to argue. The words were right there, hot and angry and proud. But Emma was already at the table, hands wrapped around a bowl, like it was treasure. The twins had their faces buried in their stew, eating so fast they barely chewed. Henry was watching her, waiting to see what she'd do. And Rose was holding her bowl, just holding it, steam rising around her pale face. Mama! Rose's voice was small. "Can I eat?" Something broke inside Clara, clean and sharp like a bone snapping. "Yes, baby." She sat down. "We can all eat." The stew was good, rich and hot and real. Clara couldn't remember the last time she'd tasted something that didn't come from garbage or charity. "Slowly," Jacob said. "All of you. You eat too fast, you'll be sick." The twins ignored him. Emma tried to pace herself. Henry barely touched his food, still watching. "Boy." Jacob looked at Henry. "I ain't gonna hurt your mama." "Men say that," Henry replied. "Then they do anyway." "Some do. I don't." "How do I know?" "You don't." Jacob shrugged. "But I ain't making you stay. Door's right there. You want to take your family back into that blizzard, go ahead." Henry's jaw tightened. He looked at Rose finally eating, at the twins' faces smeared with stew, at Emma so focused on her food she hadn't spoken in minutes. Then he picked up his spoon and started eating. Jacob nodded once, said nothing. Clara finished her bowl and set it down. "Why are you helping us? Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need to know what you want." Clara's voice hardened. "Men don't help for free. They help because they expect something. So what do you expect, Mr. Hawkins?" Jacob was quiet for a long moment. The fire crackled. Outside the wind picked up. "2 years ago," he said, "I had a wife and a little girl. Cholera took them both in the same week." Clara's chest tightened. "Sarah, my wife, she was always taking in strays. Couldn't pass someone in need without helping. Drove me crazy sometimes." He stared into the fire. "Before she died, she made me promise something." "What?" "That I wouldn't stop. That I'd keep helping even when she was gone." Jacob's voice roughened. "That I'd find reasons to keep living even when I wanted to die." Clara didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. "I ain't helping you because I want something, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm helping because my wife would have wanted me to." He stood. "Now, that little one needs looking at. She's running a fever." Clara was on her feet instantly. "What?" She crossed to Rose and pressed her hand to the girl's forehead. Hot. Too hot. How had she missed it? When did this start? "Probably been building for days," Jacob said. "Body fights off sickness when it's cold and starving. Once it gets warm and fed, the fever comes. What do we do? Keep her cool, keep her drinking, wait it out. That's it. Just wait. Storm's coming. Ain't no riding to town tonight. Doctor's 10 miles away." Jacob pulled a cloth from a hook and dipped it in the water bucket. "We do what we can. Pray it's enough." He handed her the cloth. Their fingers touched just for a moment, and Clara felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Stupid, dangerous hope. She pushed it down and focused on Rose. "I need more water," she said. "And blankets. Light ones, not heavy." "Yes, ma'am." Jacob moved without question. Clara settled beside her daughter and pressed the cool cloth to her forehead. "Mama?" Rose's eyes fluttered open. "I'm hot." "I know, baby. We're gonna cool you down." "Am I sick?" "A little, but you're gonna be fine." "Promise?" Clara thought of all the promises she'd made and broken. To Matthew, "I'll love you forever." To Thomas, "I'll see you in Cheyenne." To her children, "Everything will be okay." Lies. All of them. But Rose was looking at her with those big eyes, waiting, trusting, and Clara wouldn't let her down. "Promise," she said, and meant it. The night was long. Rose's fever spiked around midnight. She thrashed and cried and called for her papa. Clara held her through all of it, singing the lullabies she'd sung when Rose was a baby, whispering promises she prayed she could keep. Jacob stayed close, fetching water, heating broth, keeping the fire stoked. He didn't hover, didn't get in the way, just appeared when she needed something and disappeared when she didn't. At some point, Emma crawled over and took Rose's hand. "I'm here, Rosie. I'm here." The twins fell asleep in a pile near the fire, arms and legs tangled together. Henry sat in the corner, knife across his knees, keeping watch. "Your boy don't trust me," Jacob said quietly. "My boy don't trust anyone." Clara wiped Rose's forehead. "Not since his father died." "How'd it happen, if you don't mind my asking?" "Cave-in. Silverbell mine." Clara's voice flattened. "They told me it was quick, that he didn't suffer." "You believe them?" "I believe they wanted me to stop asking questions." Jacob nodded slowly. "Mining companies don't like questions." "No, they don't." "Your brother, the one in Cheyenne, he know what happened. Sent him a telegram 3 months ago. He wrote back, said he'd meet us in Miller's Creek." Clara's jaw tightened. "That was the last I heard." "And you came anyway?" "Had nowhere else to go." "So you walked across Wyoming territory in the dead of winter. 5 young'uns, no money, no supplies." Jacob's voice held something like wonder. "That's either brave or foolish." "Maybe both." "Maybe." Rose whimpered in her sleep. Clara pulled her closer. "She's cooling down," Jacob said. "Feel." Clara pressed her hand to Rose's forehead. He was right. Still warm, but not that terrifying heat from before. "Thank God." "Thank her." Jacob stood, stretching his back. "Girl's got fight in her, like her mama." Clara almost smiled. Almost. "You should sleep," Jacob said. "I'll watch Rose." "I can't." "You ain't slept in how long?" 3 days, 4. "I don't remember." "Exactly." He pointed to the bed. "Sleep. I'll wake you if anything changes." "Why should I trust you?" "Because you ain't got a choice." Jacob's voice was gentle but firm. "Because those other 4 young'uns need their mama alive. Because sometimes, Mrs. Whitmore, you gotta let someone else carry the weight." Clara wanted to argue. The words were right there, stubborn and proud and scared. But her eyes were burning. Her body ached. And Rose was stable for the first time in hours. 2 hours, she said. "Then you wake me." 2 hours. She stumbled to the bed and collapsed without undressing. The pillow smelled like cedar and smoke, like a man who lived alone and didn't mind. Sleep took her before she could think another thought. She dreamed of Matthew. Not the Matthew who died broken and bloody under tons of rock, but the Matthew she'd married, young and strong and full of dreams. "You found someone," he said. "I didn't find anyone. I just... Clara." He smiled, that crooked smile she'd fallen in love with. "It's okay. It's okay to live. I don't know how anymore. You'll remember." He started to fade. "Take care of our babies." "I'm trying." "I know, you always try." His voice came from far away now. "That's why I loved you." Then he was gone. Clara woke to gray light and the smell of coffee. She sat up fast, heart pounding. "Rose?" "She's fine." Jacob was by the stove, pouring coffee into a tin cup. "Fever broke an hour ago. She's sleeping natural now." Clara looked at the fire. Rose was there, color back in her cheeks, breathing deep and steady. Emma was curled up beside her. The twins were still tangled together. Henry was asleep in his corner, knife finally loosened in his grip. "You let me sleep more than 2 hours. You needed it. That wasn't our deal. Lady, you were dead on your feet. Deal or no deal, I wasn't waking you." He handed her the coffee. "Drink. Storm's getting worse." Clara wrapped her hands around the cup. The warmth seeped into her bones. "How bad?" "Bad. Ain't seen snow like this in years." Jacob moved to the window, pushing the shutter open a crack. "We're stuck here at least 3 days. Maybe 4. 3 days. Could be worse. Could be out there." He nodded toward the white wall of snow beyond the glass. "Anyone caught in that ain't coming out alive." Clara thought of what would have happened if they'd kept walking yesterday, if she hadn't found the cellar, if Jacob hadn't found her. "Thank you," she said. The words came out rough, unpracticed. "For everything. I don't know how to—" "You don't have to know." Jacob closed the shutter. "Just drink your coffee and rest. We got time to figure out the rest." Clara drank. The coffee was strong and bitter and perfect. Outside, the blizzard raged. Inside, her children slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. And Clara Whitmore, for one brief moment, allowed herself to feel safe. She should have known it wouldn't last. On the second day, Rose was well enough to sit up and eat. She still didn't talk much, but she watched everything Jacob especially with cautious, curious eyes. On the third day, Henry finally unclenched enough to help Jacob with the firewood. They worked in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. The kind men build when they're sizing each other up and deciding they're okay. On the fourth day, the storm broke, and the riders came. Clara was helping Emma with her letters when she heard the hoofbeats. Not one horse, several. Moving fast despite the deep snow. Jacob was already at the window, rifle in hand. "Get the children away from the door." "Who is it?" "Don't know yet." His jaw tightened. But folks who ride hard through fresh snow ain't usually bringing good news. Clara grabbed Rose and pushed the twins behind the bed. Emma went without being told. Henry appeared beside Jacob, knife out. "Boy, get back." No. Jacob looked at him. Something passed between them, respect maybe, or recognition. "Fine, but stay behind me, and don't do nothing unless I tell you." The hoofbeats stopped outside. Voices. Men's voices. At least 3, maybe 4. Then a knock, hard and demanding. "Hawkins?" A man's voice smooth as oil. "We know you're in there. We know you got company. Open the door." Jacob's face went cold. "Ezra Cole." Clara's blood froze. "You know him?" "Know of him. Land grabber. Works for the railroad." Jacob's grip tightened on the rifle. "Bad news on 2 legs." "What does he want?" "Don't know, but I aim to find out." Jacob moved toward the door. "Stay back, all of you, no matter what happens." He opened the door. 3 men stood in the snow. The one in front was tall and lean with pale eyes, and a smile that didn't reach them. He wore a black coat and carried himself like a man used to getting what he wanted. "Mr. Hawkins." That oily voice. "Been a while." "Not long enough. What do you want, Cole?" "Heard you got guests, widow woman and some young'uns." Ezra Cole's smile widened. "Come all the way from Colorado, I hear. Had some trouble in Miller's Creek." "What's that to you?" "Let's just say I'm interested in their welfare." Cole peered past Jacob into the cabin. His eyes found Clara. "Mrs. Whitmore, we haven't been properly introduced." Clara stepped forward, putting herself between Cole and her children. "How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know things." Cole tipped his hat. "Especially about women who owe me money." "I don't owe you anything." "No." Cole's smile turned sharp. "Your husband did. Matthew Whitmore, rest his soul, took a loan from my associates 6 months before that unfortunate accident. $500. Never paid a cent back." Clara felt the ground tilt beneath her. "You're lying." "I have the papers, ma'am. His signature clear as day. The debt passes to his widow." Cole spread his hands. "That'd be you." "I don't have $500. I don't have $5. "I know. That's why I'm here to offer an alternative." "What alternative?" Cole's eyes traveled over her, slowly, like he was appraising livestock. "Your brother has a nice spread near Cheyenne. Good land, water rights. Worth quite a bit more than $500. Thomas has nothing to do with—" "Sign his land over to me, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll clear your husband's debt. I'll make sure you and your young'uns are taken care of." Cole paused. "Or don't. And see what happens to families who owe money they can't pay." Jacob stepped forward, rifle raised. "Get off my land." "Now, Hawkins." "I said, get off." Jacob's voice was deadly quiet. "You ain't conducting business here. Not today. Not ever." Cole's smile didn't waver. "This isn't your concern. She's under my roof. That makes it my concern." The two men behind Cole moved their hands toward their guns. Jacob didn't flinch. "3 against 1, Cole observed. "Those ain't good odds, Hawkins. I only need to kill one of you." Jacob aimed directly at Cole's chest. "Reckon I'll start with the one doing all the talking." Silence. Cold and dangerous. Then Cole laughed. "Always did like you, Hawkins. Man of principle." He stepped back, hands raised. "We'll give you time to think about it, Mrs. Whitmore. Say a week, then I'll be back for your answer. And if I don't have one, then things get unpleasant." Cole mounted his horse. "For everyone." He tipped his hat one more time. Then he and his men rode away, disappearing into the white landscape. Jacob didn't lower the rifle until they were out of sight. "Mama." Emma's voice trembled. "What did that man want?" Clara couldn't answer. Her mind was spinning. Matthew had taken a loan, $500. He'd never said anything, never mentioned Mrs. Whitmore. Jacob's hand was on her arm. "Clara, come inside." She let him lead her back to the fire. Her legs felt numb. Her chest felt hollow. "I didn't know," she heard herself say. "About the loan. Matthew never told me." Men do fool things when they're desperate. But $500? Where did it go? Jacob was quiet for a moment. "The mines weren't paying well last year. Lot of men took loans to keep their families fed. Most of them are dead now. And their widows owe the money. That's how Cole works. He don't want cash. He wants land. He finds men in trouble, offers them loans, then waits." Jacob's voice hardened. "One way or another, he always collects." "He mentioned Thomas, my brother. Cole's been trying to buy up land all through Wyoming. Your brother's spread is right in the middle of territory he wants. You think Thomas turned him down? You think that's why he didn't come to Miller's Creek?" "I think it's possible." Clara sank into a chair. Her children gathered around her. Henry, watchful, Emma, worried, the twins confused. Rose, silent. "I don't know what to do," Clara whispered. "I don't have $500. I can't sign away Thomas's land. I don't even know if Thomas is alive." "Then we find out." Jacob crouched in front of her. "Storm's past. Tomorrow I ride to Cheyenne. Check on your brother. See what Cole's really after. You do that for us. Told you before, my wife made me promise to help folks in need." His eyes held hers. "I ain't breaking that promise now." Clara looked at this man, this stranger who'd taken them in, fed them, saved her daughter's life, who was now offering to ride 40 miles in winter to help a family he didn't even know. "Why?" she asked. "Really? Why are you doing this?" Jacob was quiet for a long moment. "Because maybe helping you is helping me," he said finally. "Because maybe saving your family is a way of making up for the one I couldn't save." He stood and walked to the window. "Get some rest, Mrs. Whitmore. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Clara watched him go. Watched him stare out at the snow-covered land, his shoulders carrying a weight she was only beginning to understand. She gathered her children close. All 5 of them pressed against her like they had in that cellar 4 days ago. But everything was different now. She had shelter. She had food. She had someone willing to fight for her. And she had an enemy. Ezra Cole would be back in a week. And when he came, she'd need to have an answer. Clara Whitmore had never backed down from a fight in her life. She wasn't about to start now. Outside, the sun set over the mountains, painting the snow gold and red. And somewhere in the distance, 3 riders made camp for the night waiting. Ezra Cole always collected what he was owed, one way or another. Jacob left at dawn. Clara stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, watching him saddle his horse. The morning air bit at her cheeks. Her breath came out in white clouds. "You got enough supplies?" she asked. "Enough for 3 days. Should make Cheyenne by tomorrow night if the weather holds." Jacob tightened the cinch strap. "You remember what I told you. Keep the doors locked. Don't let anyone in. If Cole comes back, don't open the door no matter what he says. And if things go bad..." Clara touched the rifle leaning against the doorframe. "I know how to shoot." Knowing how and being willing are 2 different things. Jacob turned to face her. "Can you pull that trigger if you have to look a man in the eye and put a bullet in his chest?" Clara thought of her children, of what Cole's men might do to them, of what she'd already survived to get here. "Yes," she said. "I can." Jacob studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him nod. "I believe you." He swung into the saddle. The horse stamped, eager to move. "Jacob!" Clara stepped forward. "Be careful." "Always am." "I mean it. Cole's dangerous. If he finds out you're looking for Thomas..." "Let me worry about Cole." Jacob pulled his hat low. "You just keep those young'uns safe. I'll be back in 4 days, 5 at most. And if you're not..." He didn't answer, just touched the brim of his hat and kicked his horse into motion. Clara watched him ride away until he was just a dark shape against the snow. Then he crested the ridge and was gone. She stood there for a long moment, the cold seeping through her dress, her heart heavy in her chest. 4 days. Maybe 5. A lot could happen in 5 days. "Mama!" Emma's voice came from inside. "Is Mr. Jacob gone?" Clara turned and went back in, closing the door firmly behind her. "Yes, baby. He's gone." "When's he coming back?" "Soon." Clara forced a smile. "Now who wants breakfast?" The first day passed slowly. Clara kept the children busy, lessons for Emma and Henry, games for the twins, quiet time with Rose. She cleaned the cabin twice, reorganized the pantry, mended clothes that didn't need mending. Anything to keep her mind off the waiting. Rose was the one who surprised her. Around midday, the little girl walked to Clara and tugged her sleeve. "Mama." "What is it, baby?" "I want to help." Clara stared at her. Rose hadn't offered to help with anything in weeks, hadn't shown interest in anything except staring at walls and sleeping. "Help with what?" "The bread." Rose pointed to the flour Jacob had left. "Papa used to let me help with bread." Clara's throat tightened. "He did, didn't he? I miss Papa." "I know, sweetheart. I miss him too." "But Mr. Jacob is nice." Rose's voice was matter of fact. "He gave me hot stew. He didn't yell when I couldn't talk." Clara knelt down to Rose's level. "You like Mr. Jacob?" Rose thought about it. Really thought the way children do when they're taking a question seriously. "He's sad," she said finally. "Like you, but he's still nice. Sad people can still be nice, right, Mama?" Clara pulled her daughter close, hiding her tears in Rose's hair. "Yes, baby. Sad people can still be nice." They made bread together. Rose kneaded the dough with her small hands, flour dusting her cheeks, and for the first time in months, she smiled. It wasn't much. Just a small curve of her lips, gone almost as soon as it appeared. But Clara saw it. And it was enough. That night, after the younger children were asleep, Henry came to sit beside Clara by the fire. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Don't want to." He stared at the flames. "Someone's got to keep watch." "Henry, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do." His jaw tightened. "I'm the man of the family now. Papa said so." Clara's heart clenched. When did Papa say that? Before he went to the mine that morning, the last morning. Henry's voice was flat, but his hands were shaking. He woke me up early, said he wanted to talk. You never told me this. You had enough to worry about. Henry finally looked at her. His eyes, Matthew's eyes, were filled with something old and heavy. He knew, Mama. I think he knew something bad was going to happen. Clara couldn't breathe. What did he say? He said if anything happened to him, I had to take care of you and the girls. He made me promise. Made me swear on Grandpa's Bible. Henry. He said the mine wasn't safe. Said the foreman was cutting corners using old timbers instead of new ones. He said he'd complained, but nobody listened. Henry's voice cracked. He said if anything happened, I shouldn't blame myself. But I do, Mama. I do blame myself. Why? Because I could have stopped him. Tears spilled down Henry's cheeks, the first tears Clara had seen him shed since Matthew's funeral. That morning, I could have told him not to go. I could have begged him to stay home. But I didn't. I just said okay and went back to sleep. Clara grabbed her son and held him tight. He fought it. For a moment, he always fought softness now, then collapsed against her, sobbing. It's not your fault, she whispered. It's not your fault, baby. You couldn't have known. But Papa knew. He knew, and he went anyway. Because that's what fathers do. They go to work. They provide for their families. Clara stroked his hair. Your Papa loved you more than anything in this world. He would never want you to carry this blame. Then why did he make me promise? Why did he put that on me? Because he trusted you. Because he knew you were strong enough to handle it. Clara pulled back to look at her son. But Henry, being strong doesn't mean carrying everything alone. It means knowing when to ask for help. It means letting people in. Like Mr. Jacob. Like Mr. Jacob. Henry wiped his face roughly. Do you trust him? Mama? Really trust him? Clara considered the question carefully. A week ago, she would have said no. She didn't trust anyone, couldn't afford to. But now, I'm starting to, she admitted. I think maybe I am. Henry nodded slowly. Then he did something he hadn't done in months. He leaned his head against her shoulder and let himself be a child again. They sat like that until the fire burned low. Then Clara sent him to bed and took up the watch, her self-rifle across her knees, eyes on the door. 4 more days. She could do this. The second day brought visitors. Clara heard the horse approaching around noon. She grabbed the rifle and pushed the children behind the bed, the same routine as before, and waited. The knock was different this time. Lighter, less demanding. Hello, anyone home? A woman's voice. It's Ruth Mason, from the next ranch over. Jacob asked us to check on you. Clara hesitated. It could be a trick. Cole could have sent someone. How do I know you're telling the truth? Jacob said you'd be suspicious. Said to tell you... The woman paused. Said to tell you the stew was his mama's recipe, and that you're the most stubborn woman he's ever met. Despite herself, Clara almost smiled. That sounded like Jacob. She opened the door. Ruth Mason was small and gray-haired with kind eyes and work-worn hands. Behind her stood a man about the same age her husband Clara guessed, holding a basket covered with cloth. Mrs. Whitmore. Ruth smiled warmly. Lord have mercy, your skin and bones. When's the last time you ate a proper meal? I've been eating fine. Jacob's stew doesn't count. That man thinks salt and pepper are spices. Ruth pushed past her into the cabin. I brought real food. Biscuits, preserved some salt pork, and pie. Apple pie. The children like pie. The twins' heads popped up from behind the bed. Pie. William's eyes went wide. Real pie, Thomas added. Ruth laughed. Real as it gets, little ones. Come on out. I don't bite. Within minutes, the cabin was full of warmth and chatter. Ruth fussed over the children like they were her own grandchildren, feeding them biscuits and telling stories about her farm. Her husband George sat with Henry and talked about horses and cattle and the things men talk about. Clara watched it all from her chair by the fire, the rifle still within reach. "You can relax, you know." Ruth settled beside her with a cup of coffee. "We're not here to hurt you." "I've learned not to relax." "I imagine you have." Ruth's eyes were kind, but knowing. "Jacob told us about coal, about the debt." Clara stiffened. "What else did he tell you?" "That you've got more courage than sense. That you walked across Wyoming with 5 children and no money. That you're the most stubborn woman he's ever met." Ruth smiled. "He said it like it was a compliment." "Did he?" "He did. He also said he was going to find your brother. Make sure Cole hadn't done anything to him." Clara's hands tightened on her cup. "You know Thomas." "Know of him. Good man from what I hear. Quiet. Keeps to himself." Ruth hesitated. "There's been talk, though, the last few months." "What kind of talk?" "His ranch hands left, all of them one by one. Then his cattle started disappearing. Then his barn burned." Ruth lowered her voice. "Some folks say he's been hiding. Others say he's dead. Nobody's seen him since October." Clara felt cold despite the fire. "And Cole, is he behind it?" "Can't prove nothing. But Ezra Cole's been buying up land all through this territory. Anyone who won't sell has problems. Your brother wouldn't sell." "No, Thomas wouldn't." "Then you know what kind of trouble he's in." Ruth touched Clara's hand. "Jacob's a good man. If anyone can find your brother, he can. But you need to be ready." "Ready for what?" "For the possibility that Thomas might not be the man you remember. That whatever Cole's done to him, it might have changed things." Clara pulled her hand away. "Thomas is my brother. Nothing changes that." "I hope you're right." Ruth stood. "We should go. Storm's coming, another one, but we'll be back tomorrow, and the day after that, until Jacob gets home." "You don't have to." "Yes, we do. That's what neighbors do out here." Ruth smiled. "Besides, Jacob would skin us alive if anything happened to you while he was gone. Never seen that man so worked up over a woman." "We're not. I mean, he's just... I know what he is. I know what you are too." Ruth pulled on her coat. "Two broken people who found each other. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with letting yourself be happy again." She left before Clara could respond. George Mason shook Henry's hand like he was a grown man. "You keep watching over your family, son. That's good. That's right. But don't forget to let folks help. That's right, too." Then they were gone, their horses disappearing into the gray afternoon. Clara stood at the window watching the snow start to fall. Two broken people who found each other. Was that what this was? Mama? Emma tugged her sleeve. "I like Mrs. Ruth. Can she come back?" "She'll be back tomorrow." "Good." Emma paused. "Mama, is Mr. Jacob going to be our new papa?" Clara knelt down. "What makes you ask that?" "Mrs. Ruth said you were broken. She said Mr. Jacob was broken too, and when Papa fixed broken things, he always put them together." Emma's logic was flawless, the way children's logic often is. "So maybe you and Mr. Jacob are supposed to be together, to fix each other." Clara didn't know what to say, so she pulled Emma close and held her tight. "Let's just see what happens, baby. One day at a time." The storm hit that night. Not as bad as the first one, but bad enough. The wind howled and the snow piled up, and Clara kept the fire burning through the dark hours. The third day, Rose spoke a full sentence. "Mama, I want to see Papa's stars." Clara nearly dropped the pot she was holding. "What baby?" "Papa's stars. He showed me once. Said they were watching over us." Rose pointed at the window. "Can we see them tonight?" Clara set down the pot and crouched beside her daughter. "It's cloudy tonight, sweetheart. We can't see the stars when it's cloudy." Then tomorrow? If the clouds go away, yes. Tomorrow. Rose nodded, satisfied. Then she went back to playing with the wooden blocks Jacob had found for her. Clara watched her with tears in her eyes. Rose was coming back. Slowly, painfully, but she was coming back. Whatever happened with Cole, whatever happened with Thomas, this moment was worth everything. Henry noticed too. She's talking more. I know. It's because of him, Mr. Jacob. Henry's voice was grudging but honest. She started getting better when we came here. You think so? I know so. The twins too. They stopped having nightmares. Emma's not scared all the time. Henry looked at her. We're all better here, Mama. For the first time since Papa died. Clara reached out and squeezed his hand. We are, aren't we? So what happens when Mr. Jacob comes back? What happens when Cole comes for his money? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out, together. Henry nodded. Then he went back to whittling a new hobby George Mason had shown him, and Clara went back to worrying. 3 more days. Maybe 2. The 4th day, everything changed. It was just past noon when Clara heard the rider. Not from the direction of the Mason ranch, from the north, from Cheyenne. She grabbed the rifle, got the children behind the bed, waited. The knock came. Then a voice, not Jacob's voice, not Ruth's voice, a man's voice, weak, desperate. Clara, Clara, please. It's Thomas. Please let me in. Clara's heart stopped. Mama? Emma whispered. Did he say? Stay here. Clara moved to the door, rifle raised. If you're really Thomas, prove it. What? Tell me something only Thomas would know. A long pause. Then, when we were kids, you broke Mama's china teapot. The blue one with the roses. You blamed me, and I took the whipping because I knew Papa would go easier on me than on you. The voice cracked. You cried for 3 days, made me promise never to tell anyone. I never did, not once in 30 years. Clara lowered the rifle, fumbled with the latch, pulled the door open. Thomas Sullivan stood in the snow. But it wasn't the Thomas she remembered. This Thomas was thin skeleton, thin with a beard that hadn't been trimmed in months, and eyes that looked haunted. His clothes were torn, his hands were bandaged, and he was swaying on his feet like a man about to collapse. Clara. His voice broke. Oh God, Clara, I'm so sorry. She caught him as he fell. Getting Thomas inside was a struggle. He was barely conscious, mumbling apologies and warnings and things that didn't make sense. Clara and Henry managed to drag him to the fire where they stripped off his frozen coat and wrapped him in blankets. Is he going to die, Mama? William asked. No, baby. He's going to be fine. Emma, get me water. Henry, more blankets. Rose, keep the twins in the corner. They worked as a team, her little family broken and battered but strong. Thomas drifted in and out, his fever high, his body shaking. When he finally opened his eyes, they were clearer, more focused. Clara. He grabbed her hand. You have to listen to me. Cole's coming. He knows you're here. How does he know? I told him. Thomas's face crumpled with shame. They caught me 2 weeks ago, beat me, starved me, asked where you were. He started to cry. I held out as long as I could. I swear I did. But they kept asking and kept hurting me, and finally, I told them everything. Thomas, it's okay. It's not okay. He gripped her hand tighter. You don't understand. Cole's not just a land grabber. He's connected. The railroad, the governor, the territorial marshal, they're all in his pocket. He's been buying up everything between here and Cheyenne, and anyone who gets in his way disappears. What about Matthew's debt? Is that real? Thomas hesitated. Just for a second. But Clara saw it. Tell me. Matthew didn't take any loan. Thomas's voice dropped. Cole made it up. Forged the papers. He's done it before, find widows with land or connections, create fake debts, force them to sign over everything. He looked at her with desperate eyes. He doesn't want your money, Clara. He never did. He wants me. He wants my land. And he's using you to get it. Clara sat back, her mind racing. Jacob, she said suddenly. Jacob went to Cheyenne to find you. If Cole's men are watching, they're watching everything. Thomas tried to sit up, failed. That's how they caught me. I was trying to get to Miller's Creek to warn you. They were waiting. How did you escape? I didn't. They let me go. Thomas's voice was bitter. Cole wanted me to find you, wanted me to lead them straight here. He grabbed her arm. Clara, you have to take the children and run, now, tonight, before they come. And leave Jacob to face them alone, when he comes back and finds us gone. Better that than dead. Clara stood and walked to the window. The snow was falling again, soft and quiet, peaceful. It was a lie. All of it. The peace, the safety, the hope she'd let herself feel. It was all a lie. Mama. Rose's small voice cut through her thoughts. Is Uncle Thomas okay? Clara turned. Her daughter stood in the middle of the room, clutching a wooden block to her chest, her face worried. He's going to be fine, baby. Is the bad man coming? Clara crouched down. What bad man? The one with the cold eyes, the one who wanted money. Rose's voice was matter-of-fact. He's coming, isn't he? That's why everyone's scared. Clara didn't know what to say, so she told the truth. Yes, sweetheart, the bad man might be coming. Then we have to fight him. Rose's chin lifted that stubborn angle that was pure Clara. That's what Papa would do. That's what Mr. Jacob would do. Rose. I'm not scared, Mama. Rose's eyes were clear, certain. I was scared before, when Papa died, when we were hungry, when I couldn't talk. But I'm not scared anymore, because you're here, and Mr. Jacob's coming back, and we're together. Clara felt tears streaming down her face. Her 4-year-old daughter, who'd been silent for weeks, who'd been lost in grief and trauma, was standing in front of her, ready to fight. You're the bravest person I know, Clara whispered. No. Rose shook her head. You are Mama. You're the bravest. Clara pulled her close, held her tight. Then she stood up and turned to face her family. We're not running, she said. Not this time. Clara, Thomas started. No, I'm done running. I've been running for 3 months. Running from Matthew's death, running from the debt, running from everyone who told me I couldn't survive alone. Her voice hardened. I'm not running anymore. Cole will kill us all. Let him try. Clara picked up the rifle. Henry, how many bullets do we have? Henry checked the box. 23. Is there another gun? Jacob's got a pistol in the chest by the bed. 6 shots. That's 29 bullets. Clara did the math. Cole had 3 men. Even if he brings more, that's enough. If we're smart, if we're careful. You can't be serious, Thomas said. You're going to fight with children in the house? I'm going to protect my family. Clara met his eyes. That's what mothers do. Thomas stared at her. Then slowly something shifted in his face. The despair faded. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like hope. God, he said quietly. You really are Mama's daughter. Damn right I am. Clara, I'm sorry for not meeting you in Miller's Creek, for leading Cole to you, for everything. You can apologize later. Right now, I need you to tell me everything you know about Cole, his men, his weaknesses, everything. Thomas nodded and began to talk. Outside, the snow kept falling. And somewhere on the road from Cheyenne, Jacob Hawkins was riding hard, pushing his horse through drifts and wind, driven by a feeling he couldn't name. Something was wrong. He knew it in his bones. He just prayed he wasn't too late. Back in the cabin, Clara listened to Thomas's information and made her plans. Henry checked the windows. Emma kept the twins calm. Rose stood by the fire, watching, waiting. 5 children. 1 wounded brother, 1 rifle, 1 pistol. 29 bullets. And Ezra Cole coming with God knew how many men. It wasn't enough. Clara knew it wasn't enough, but she'd been fighting impossible odds for 3 months. One more battle wouldn't break her. She looked at her children, at Henry's fierce determination, at Emma's quiet courage, at the twins' innocent trust, at Rose's hard-won strength. This was her family. This was what she was fighting for. And she would die before she let anyone take them from her. The sun set behind the mountains. The fire crackled. The snow fell silent and steady. And Clara Whitmore waited for war. They came at dawn. Clara heard them before she saw them. Hoofbeats, a lot of them, more than 3. "Henry!" She shook her son awake. "They're here." He was on his feet in seconds, knife in one hand, pistol in the other. "How many?" Clara moved to the window and peered through a crack in the shutter. Her stomach dropped. 6, no 7. She counted again. 8 riders, Cole's in front. 8. Thomas pushed himself up from the bed, wincing. He only had 3 men before. Looks like he brought friends. "Clara, 8 against 2, we can't." 3. Henry's voice was hard. "I can shoot." "You're 10 years old." "I've been shooting since I was 7. Papa taught me." Henry checked the pistol. "I can do this, Mama." Clara wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to hide with his siblings, to let the adults handle this. But she looked at his face, Matthew's face, with Matthew's stubborn jaw, and knew there was no point. "Stay by the back window," she said. "Don't fire unless I tell you." "Yes, ma'am." The hoofbeats stopped outside. Silence. Then Cole's voice, smooth as ever. "Mrs. Whitmore, I know you're in there. I know Thomas is with you." A pause. "And I know Jacob Hawkins ain't coming to save you. My men are watching the road from Cheyenne. He won't get within 10 miles of this place." Clara's blood went cold. Jacob. They had Jacob. "You're lying," she called back. "Am I?" Cole laughed. "Check the saddle on the gray horse. 3rd from the left. Recognize it." Clara looked. The gray horse. The saddle. Jacob's saddle. The one with the worn leather and the silver buckle shaped like a star. "No." The word came out strangled. "He put up a good fight, I'll give him that. Killed 2 of my men before we brought him down." Cole's voice hardened. "But he's alive, for now. Whether he stays that way depends on you." "You're bluffing." "Thomas, tell your sister what happens when I'm not bluffing." Thomas had gone pale. "Clara, he doesn't bluff. He never bluffs." "Smart man, your brother." Cole again. "Now here's how this is gonna go. You're gonna open that door. You're gonna hand over the deed to Thomas's land. And you're gonna come with me nice and quiet. And if I don't, then my men put a bullet in Jacob Hawkins's head. Then they burn this cabin to the ground. Then they drag you out of the ashes and we have this conversation anyway." Cole's voice dropped. "Your choice, Mrs. Whitmore. But choose fast. My patience ain't what it used to be." Clara's mind raced. 8 men. Jacob captured. Thomas wounded. Henry barely trained. 29 bullets against professional killers. The math didn't work. It had never worked. "Mama!" Emma's voice came from behind her. "What do we do?" Clara turned. All 5 of her children were awake now, watching her with frightened eyes. Even Rose, who'd been so brave yesterday, looked scared. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading. The moment when all her fighting, all her running, all her desperate hope came down to one impossible choice. Surrender and save Jacob. Fight and watch her children die. "Thomas," her voice was steady. "The deed to your land, where is it?" "Clara, you can't. Where is it?" Thomas's face crumpled. "In my boot, hidden in the lining." Clara crossed to him and pulled off his boot. Her fingers found the edge of the paper carefully folded and tucked into the leather. She pulled it out. One piece of paper, worth more than gold, worth more than her life, worth more than Jacob's Clara. Thomas grabbed her arm. "If you give him that deed, he wins, Everything I've worked for, everything I nearly died for, it's gone. And if I don't give it to him, Jacob dies. We all die." Clara met his eyes. "What would you have me do?" "Fight. Like you said. Like Mama would have done." "Mama didn't have 5 children depending on her. Mama didn't have—" Clara's voice broke. "I can't lose anyone else, Thomas. I can't." "So you'll just give up after everything?" "I'm not giving up. I'm surviving." Clara pulled away. "That's what I do. That's what I've always done." She walked to the door. Her hand touched the latch. "Mama, no!" Henry lunged forward. "You can't just surrender. You said we'd fight. You promised?" "I know what I said." "Then keep your promise." "Henry." "Papa would have fought. Papa would have died before he let men like Cole win. You told me that. You told me he was brave." Clara stopped. Her hand fell from the latch. "Your papa was brave," she said quietly. "The bravest man I ever knew. And he died in a mine collapse because he was too proud to run when the timbers started cracking." "That's not—" "He knew the mine wasn't safe. Thomas told you that. He knew, and he went anyway because he thought he could handle it. Because he thought running was weakness." Clara turned to face her son. "And now he's dead. And I've spent 3 months keeping you alive without him. So don't talk to me about fighting Henry. Don't talk to me about bravery. Sometimes surviving is braver than dying." Henry stared at her. His face was a storm of emotions: anger, hurt, confusion, grief. "So that's it." His voice cracked. "We just give up. We let the bad guys win. We stay alive. That's not giving up. That's—" "Mrs. Whitmore." Cole's voice cut through. "Time's up. What's it gonna be?" Clara closed her eyes, drew a breath. Then she heard it. Gunfire. Not from outside, from somewhere behind the cabin. Distant but getting closer. Cole heard it too. What the hell? More shots, shouting, the thunder of hooves. Clara ran to the back window and looked out. Riders, at least a dozen of them coming hard from the east, and leading them, George Mason. Clara laughed. Actually laughed. "That beautiful old man." "What's happening?" Thomas struggled to the window. His eyes went wide. "Who are they?" "Neighbors, friends." Clara felt hope surge through her like fire. "The cavalry, Thomas. The cavalry's arrived." Outside, chaos erupted. Cole's men scattered as the Mason party swept in, guns blazing. Clara saw George at the front, shotgun barking. Behind him, men she didn't recognize. Ranchers, farmers, townspeople, all armed, all furious. "Get inside!" Cole screamed at his men. "Use the cabin!" They ran for the door. Clara grabbed the rifle. "Not my cabin, you bastards!" She fired through the window. The first man went down clutching his leg. The second dove for cover. The third kicked in the door. Clara swung the rifle like a club. It connected with his skull, and he dropped. But more were coming. She could hear them, could see their shadows. "Henry Thomas! Now!" Henry fired the pistol. Missed. Fired again. Hit a man in the shoulder. Thomas grabbed a chair and swung it at anyone who came through the door. It wasn't enough. There were too many. A man grabbed Clara from behind. She bit his arm, tasted blood. He cursed and threw her to the ground. The rifle skittered away. "Mama!" Rose screamed. Clara looked up. A man stood over her, gun raised. His face was twisted with rage. "Cole wants you alive," he said. Didn't say nothing about unharmed. He pulled back his arm to strike her. The shot came from nowhere. The man's head snapped back. He crumpled like a puppet with cut strings. Clara looked toward the door. Jacob Hawkins stood in the doorway, pistol smoking, blood running down his face. "Sorry I'm late," he said, and collapsed. The next few minutes were a blur of violence and chaos. The Mason party overwhelmed Cole's remaining men. George himself dragged Ezra Cole off his horse and threw him in the dirt. "It's over, you snake." George's voice was thick with satisfaction. Should have known better than to mess with our neighbors. Cole's face was purple with rage. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I have connections. You have nothing. A new voice. Ruth Mason stepping forward with a piece of paper. Telegram came this morning from the territorial governor. Seems someone sent him evidence of your land-grabbing schemes, forged documents, fake debts, even the railroads backing away. Cole went pale. That's impossible. Who? That would be me. Jacob's voice was weak but clear. He was sitting against the wall, Clara pressing a cloth to his wounds. Spent 3 days in Cheyenne gathering evidence. Found some folks who were happy to talk once they knew they weren't alone. You're a dead man, Hawkins. Maybe, but you're going to prison, and I'll take that trade. George hauled Cole to his feet. We're taking him to the federal marshal in Colorado Springs. Real law, not the bought kind. What about his men? Clara asked. Dead or running? George's face was grim. Lost 2 of our own too. Frank Patterson and his boy. They died fighting. Clara felt the words like a blow. More death, more loss, because of her. It's not your fault. Ruth appeared beside her, reading her thoughts. We came because we wanted to. Because Cole's been terrorizing this territory for years, and somebody had to stop him. But if you hadn't come here, Cole would have found another target, another widow, another family. Ruth squeezed her hand. You didn't cause this, Clara. You ended it. Clara wanted to believe her, wanted to let go of the guilt. But the weight stayed. It always stayed. George and his men rode out with Cole and the surviving gang members, leaving Ruth and 2 others to help with the wounded. Jacob had taken a bullet to the side and a beating that left his face bruised and swollen. Thomas was still weak from his own ordeal. But they were alive. All of them. Clara sat beside Jacob's bed watching him sleep. The children had finally calmed down. Emma was reading to the twins, Henry was helping Ruth with bandages, and Rose was sitting by the fire, quiet but present. You came back. Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Cole said his men were watching the road. Said they'd captured you. They did. Jacob's eyes opened. 4 of them. Got the drop on me about 5 miles out. Then how? I lied. A ghost of a smile crossed his battered face. Told them I had men waiting at my cabin. Told them if I didn't signal them by noon, they'd ride to every ranch in the territory and sound the alarm. They believed you. Enough to leave 2 men guarding me while the others rode to check. 2 against 1, those are odds I can handle. He winced as he shifted position. Took their horses, their guns, and their dignity. Then I rode for the Mason place. You could have run, could have gotten help from town, stayed safe. And leave you alone with Cole? Jacob's voice hardened. Not a chance in hell. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. You almost died. But I didn't. Jacob. Clara. He reached for her hand. His grip was weak, but warm. I made a promise. To my wife. To myself. To you. You don't owe me anything. This ain't about owing. This ain't about debts or obligations or anything like that. He pulled her closer. I came back because I wanted to. Because the thought of you facing Cole alone made me sicker than any bullet wound. Because somewhere in the last week, you and those children became the reason I get up in the morning. Clara didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything, just leaned down and pressed her forehead to his, letting the tears fall. I thought you were dead, she whispered. When I saw your saddle on that horse, I thought, I know, I'm sorry. Don't ever do that again. Can't promise that. His good hand found her cheek. But I can promise I'll always fight to come back, no matter what. They stayed like that for a long moment, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. 2 broken people, finally letting themselves be whole. Mama? Rose's voice cut through the silence. Is Mr. Jacob going to be okay? Clara pulled back and wiped her eyes. Yes, baby. He's going to be fine. Good. Rose walked over and stood beside the bed looking down at Jacob with serious eyes. I was worried. I prayed for you. Papa taught me how to pray when I was little. Jacob's eyes glistened. Thank you, sweetheart. I reckon those prayers helped. Papa's prayers always helped. Rose paused. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. I think Papa sent you to us. Rose's voice was matter-of-fact. When we were in the cellar, I asked Papa to help. And then you came. So I think he sent you. Clara's throat tightened. Jacob looked at her, then back at Rose. You know what? His voice was rough. I think maybe he did. Rose smiled a real smile, the first Clara had seen in months, and climbed up to sit beside Jacob on the bed. Does your head hurt? A little. Mama kisses our heads when they hurt. It helps. Rose. Clara started. But Jacob just smiled. Is that so? Rose nodded solemnly. Then she leaned over and kissed Jacob's forehead right above the bruise. There, she said. Now, it'll feel better. Something broke in Jacob's face. Not bad broken. Good broken. The kind of breaking that lets light in. You're right, he said, his voice thick. It does feel better. Clara watched her daughter with this man, this stranger who'd become so much more, and felt something shift in her chest. Something that had been locked away since Matthew died. She wasn't ready to name it yet. But it was there. Growing. The day wore on. Ruth insisted on staying to help with the wounded and the children. Her husband had ridden with George to take Cole to justice, but she wasn't about to leave Clara alone. You need rest, Ruth said firmly. You've been running on fear and stubbornness for months. It's time to stop. I can't just... Yes, you can. The children are fed. Thomas is sleeping. Jacob's stable. There's nothing that needs doing right this minute except you taking care of yourself. But, Clara. Ruth's voice softened. Let someone take care of you for once. Just for an hour. Just for a moment. It won't kill you. Clara wanted to argue. The words were right there ready to fight. But she was so tired, so bone-deep exhausted that even standing felt like a battle. 1 hour, she said. 1 hour. Clara lay down on the bed Jacob had insisted she take it. He was resting in the chair and closed her eyes. She expected sleep to be a long time coming. Her mind was too full, her heart too heavy. But exhaustion won the way it always did. She dreamed of Matthew. Not the dead Matthew, but the living one. Young and strong, laughing at something one of the children had said. You did good, Clara. I almost got them killed. But you didn't. You kept them alive. You kept yourself alive. That's all I ever wanted. I miss you. I know, but it's okay to move on. It's okay to love again. He smiled that crooked smile. Jacob's a good man. He'll take care of you. I don't need taking care of. No, but you deserve it anyway. She woke to the sound of laughter. Clara sat up, disoriented. The cabin was warm, the fire crackling. And somewhere nearby, children were laughing. She followed the sound to the door and looked outside. The snow had stopped. The sun was breaking through the clouds, painting everything gold and white, and in the yard her children were playing. Henry was teaching the twins to make snowballs. Emma was building something that might have been a snowman, and Rose was dancing in circles, arms spread wide, face turned up to the light. Jacob stood on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching them with something like wonder on his face. How long was I asleep? Clara asked. 3 hours. He didn't look at her. Couldn't look away from the children. Ruth took over. Said you needed the rest. I said 1 hour. Ruth doesn't listen. Now he looked at her. His face was still bruised, still battered, but his eyes were warm. Neither do you. Clara moved to stand beside him. Their shoulders touched. They're happy, she said. Yeah. I don't remember the last time they were happy. Maybe before isn't what matters. Jacob's voice was quiet. Maybe what matters is now, and tomorrow, and all the days after that. Clara watched Rose spin and laugh, watched the twins throw snowballs at Henry and miss by a mile, watched Emma carefully pat snow onto her creation. Jacob. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For everything. For the cellar. For the stew. For riding to Cheyenne. For fighting Cole. She turned to face him. For coming back. I told you. I know what you told me. I'm telling you anyway. She took his hand. Thank you. Jacob looked at their joined hands, then at her face, then at the children playing in the snow. Clara, he said slowly, I'm not good at this. Words, feelings, all that. Never have been. You don't have to. Let me finish. He took a breath. When Sarah died, I thought that was it. Thought I'd never feel anything again. Thought I'd just work and sleep and wait to die. His grip tightened. Then you fell into my cellar. You and those 5 young'uns. And something changed. Jacob. I ain't asking for anything. I know it's too soon. I know you're still grieving. I know you got enough to worry about without me adding to it. He met her eyes. But I want you to know if you ever decide you're ready, I'll be here. However long it takes. I'll be here. Clara felt tears streaming down her face. She didn't wipe them away. You know what Thomas told me, she said. When I was deciding whether to give Cole the deed, what? He said I should fight, like our mama would have done, like Matthew would have done. She laughed softly. And I told him that Matthew's bravery got him killed, that sometimes surviving is braver than dying. That's true. But I left something out. Clara stepped closer. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't surviving or dying. It's letting yourself live again. Really live. With all the risk and the pain and the fear that comes with it. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want to wait. Clara's voice was steady. Certain. I'm saying that life is too short and too hard to waste time being careful. I'm saying... She kissed him. It wasn't a long kiss. Wasn't a passionate kiss. Just a gentle press of lips, soft and warm and full of promise. When she pulled back, Jacob's eyes were wide. Clara, I'm not saying I'm ready for everything. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I'm saying I want to try. She touched his face. With you. If you'll have me. Jacob stared at her for a long moment. Then his battered face broke into the widest smile she'd ever seen. Woman, he said, I've been waiting for you my whole life. I just didn't know it till now. He pulled her close and kissed her back. Properly this time. The kind of kiss that makes the world disappear. Behind them, Emma's voice rang out. Mama's kissing Mr. Jacob. Henry groaned. Do they have to do that where we can see? Rose laughed. I told you they were going to get married. Clara and Jacob broke apart, both blushing. Little pitchers have big ears, Ruth called from inside. And eyes, apparently. Clara laughed, really laughed, the kind of laugh she hadn't made in months. Jacob took her hand and led her down the porch steps into the yard, into the middle of her playing children. All right, you little heathens, he said. Who wants to learn how to build a proper snow fort? The twins cheered. Henry rolled his eyes but smiled. Emma clapped her hands, and Rose ran to Jacob and grabbed his leg. Will you teach me? Please. Jacob looked down at her. At this 4-year-old girl who'd been silent for weeks, who'd watched her world fall apart, who'd somehow found her way back. Yeah, darling, he said softly. I'll teach you. Clara stood in the snow, surrounded by her children, watching the man she was learning to love show them how to pack snow and build walls. The sun was setting. The air was cold. Somewhere out there, Cole was on his way to justice, and Thomas was healing, and the future was uncertain. But here in this moment, Clara Whitmore was happy, and that was enough. That was more than enough. It was everything. The days that followed were the quietest Clara had known in months. Jacob healed slowly, his body stubborn as his spirit. Thomas grew stronger, the haunted look in his eyes fading bit by bit. The children laughed more, cried less, slept through the night without nightmares. It felt like peace. Clara didn't trust it. "You're doing it again," Jacob said one morning, watching her from his chair by the fire. "Doing what?" "Waiting for the other boot to drop, looking over your shoulder like something's coming." Clara set down the shirt she was mending. "Old habits." "Cole's in custody. His men are dead or scattered. The governor himself sent a telegram saying the charges will stick." Jacob reached for her hand. "It's over, Clara." "Nothing's ever over." "Not really." "Then at least let yourself breathe, just for a day." She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But 3 months of running, of fighting, of bracing for the next disaster that didn't disappear overnight. "I'm trying," she said. "I know." He squeezed her hand. "That's enough for now." Henry appeared in the doorway, snow dusting his shoulders. "Riders coming from the east." Clara was on her feet before he finished speaking, rifle in her hands. "Easy." Jacob struggled up from his chair. "Might just be the Masons." "Might not be." They moved to the window together. 3 riders coming slow. Not the hard gallop of men looking for a fight. "I know that horse," Thomas said from his bed. "The paint mare. That's Judge Warren's horse." "Judge Warren," Clara frowned. "From Cheyenne. The territorial judge. He handles all the big cases." Thomas pushed himself up, wincing. "If he's here, it's about Cole." Clara's stomach tightened. "I thought Cole was being taken to Colorado Springs." "He was, but Warren has jurisdiction over land disputes." Thomas's face was grim. "And Cole's been fighting charges in his court for years, always walks free." "You're saying—" "I'm saying don't get your hopes up. Warren's honest, but he's also careful. If Cole's lawyers found a loophole—" A knock at the door cut him off. Clara opened it, rifle still in her hands. A man in a black coat stood on the porch, flanked by 2 deputies. He was older, gray-bearded, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Whitmore?" His voice was formal, but not unkind. "I'm Judge Harrison Warren. May I come in?" "That depends on why you're here." "I'm here about Ezra Cole." Warren's eyes flickered to the rifle. "And I assure you, ma'am, I'm not one of his men." "That's what his men would say." Warren almost smiled. "Fair point. But if I wanted you dead, I wouldn't knock first." Clara considered this. Then she stepped aside. Warren entered the cabin, removing his hat. His deputies stayed outside. "Mr. Hawkins." He nodded at Jacob. "I heard about your work in Cheyenne. Impressive. Cole's been slipping through my court for 5 years. The evidence you gathered might finally put him away." "Might?" Jacob's voice was sharp. "There's a complication." Warren turned to Clara. "Mrs. Whitmore, were you aware that your husband had a life insurance policy?" Clara blinked. "What?" "A policy with the Western Mutual Company, taken out 3 years ago, worth $5,000. $5,000. Clara couldn't breathe. Matthew never told me." "He may not have known himself. The policy was purchased by the mining company as part of his employment contract, standard practice for high-risk workers." Warren pulled a document from his coat. "Upon his death, the payout should have gone to you. It didn't." "Why not?" "Because someone filed a claim before you could. Someone who presented forged documents claiming to be Matthew Whitmore's legal representative." Clara's blood went cold. "Cole. Ezra Cole collected $5,000 in your name 3 days after your husband died. Used it to fund his land-grabbing operation." Warren's voice hardened. "It's fraud, theft, and half a dozen other charges. Combined with the evidence from Cheyenne, he's looking at 20 years, minimum. Jacob let out a breath. So it's over. Really over. Almost. Warren turned back to Clara. There's the matter of the money. Western Mutual wants to make it right. They're prepared to honor the original policy, pay you the $5,000 plus interest. Clara sat down hard. Her legs wouldn't hold her. $5,000. Closer to $6,000 with the interest. Warren set the document on the table. All you need to do is sign. Clara stared at the paper. $6,000. More money than she'd seen in her entire life. Enough to start over. To build something. To give her children everything they'd never had. What's the catch? She heard herself say. No catch. Just justice, long overdue. Warren paused. Though I should tell you, Cole's lawyers are fighting the charges. They're claiming the evidence from Cheyenne was obtained illegally, that Mr. Hawkins coerced witnesses. That's a lie, Jacob said flatly. I know, but they're good lawyers, expensive lawyers. The trial could take months, and if they find even one technicality. Cole walks free. Clara's voice was hollow. It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. Warren met her eyes. I wanted you to know what you're facing. This fight isn't over. Not yet. Clara looked at the document, at Jacob, at her children watching from the corner with worried eyes. What do you need from me? Your testimony. At the trial. You'll need to tell the court everything, the debt, the threats, Cole's men coming to this cabin. Warren's voice softened. I know it won't be easy, but your story could make the difference. When? 2 weeks, in Cheyenne. 2 weeks. Clara had thought she'd have more time. Time to heal, to rest, to figure out what came next. But life didn't wait. It never did. I'll be there, she said. Warren nodded and stood. I'll send word when we have a date. In the meantime, try to rest. You've earned it. He tipped his hat and left his deputies falling in behind him. The cabin was silent for a long moment. Then Jacob said, $6,000. I heard. That's enough to buy a ranch, build a house, send all 5 of those young'uns to school. I know. So why do you look like someone just told you the world's ending? Clara laughed despite herself. A broken, exhausted sound. Because nothing's free, Jacob. There's always a price. She looked at him. 2 weeks ago, I was stealing rotten potatoes from your cellar. Now I'm supposed to testify against one of the most powerful men in the territory. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You heard Warren. My testimony could make the difference. Clara stood and walked to the window. If I don't do this, Cole might walk free, might come back, might hurt other families the way he hurt mine. Then you do it. Simple as that. Nothing about this is simple. Jacob came to stand beside her. His hand found hers. You're scared, he said, not a question. Terrified. Of Cole. Of everything. Of the trial, of failing, of all those people staring at me while I tell them my worst moments. Clara's voice cracked. Of leaving the children even for a few days. Of something happening while I'm gone. I'll be here. Thomas is getting stronger. The Masons are just down the road. Jacob turned her to face him. You won't be alone in this. Not ever again. You can't promise that. Watch me. He kissed her forehead, gentle and warm. Clara closed her eyes and let herself lean into him. Mama, Rose's voice interrupted. Why was that man here? Clara pulled away and knelt down. He came to tell us something important, baby. Something good. What? That the bad man, the one who wanted to hurt us, he's going to be punished. He's going to go away for a long, long time. Rose considered this. Forever. A very long time. Good. Rose's voice was fierce. He was mean. He made Uncle Thomas cry. I know, sweetheart. Will you have to go away to help punish him? Clara hesitated. Rose watched her with those big eyes, seeing too much. For a little while, Clara admitted. Just a few days. Will Mr. Jacob stay with us? Yes, baby. Mr. Jacob will stay. Rose nodded slowly. Then she walked to Jacob and took his hand. You have to protect them, she said seriously. While Mama's gone, you have to keep everyone safe. Jacob knelt down to her level. I will, darling. I promise. Cross your heart. Cross my heart. Rose studied his face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there satisfied her. Okay, she said, and went back to playing with her siblings like the conversation had never happened. Jacob stood shaking his head. That one's something else. She's been through too much. Clara watched her daughter. They all have. They're strong, like their mama. I'm not strong. I'm just too stubborn to quit. Same thing far as I can tell. The days leading up to the trial passed in a blur of preparation and worry. Clara practiced her testimony with Thomas, going over every detail until she could recite it in her sleep. Jacob worked with Henry on chores and writing, keeping the boy busy so he wouldn't have time to worry. Ruth Mason came by almost daily bringing food and advice and the kind of practical support that Clara had learned to accept. You'll do fine, Ruth said the night before Clara was set to leave. Just tell the truth. That's all anyone can do. What if the truth isn't enough? Then at least you'll know you tried. Ruth squeezed her hand. That man took everything from you, Clara. Your husband's death, your money, your peace of mind. Don't let him take your courage too. Clara nodded, but didn't speak. Her courage felt like a flickering candle these days, one strong wind from going out. That night after the children were asleep, Jacob found her on the porch, staring at the stars. Can't sleep, he asked. Can't stop thinking. He settled beside her, their shoulders touching. Want to talk about it? I keep wondering what Matthew would think. Of all this. Of Cole, the trial, the money. Clara paused. Of you. What do you think he'd think? Honestly, I think he'd be grateful. Clara turned to look at him. Matthew wasn't a jealous man. He just wanted us to be safe and happy. If he could see, you see how you've treated his children. Our children. Clara's breath caught. What? I know they're Matthew's. I know I can't replace him. I ain't trying to. Jacob's voice was steady. But those 5 young'uns in there, they're mine now too. In every way that matters. If you'll let them be. Clara felt tears burning her eyes. Jacob. I'm not asking you to forget him. I'm not asking you to choose between us. I'm just saying. He took her hands. I'm saying I love those children like they're my own blood. I love their mama so much it scares me sometimes. And I want to spend the rest of my life being the family you deserve. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. The proposal can come later when you're ready. He smiled crookedly. When you've put Cole away and collected your money and figured out what you want your life to look like. I already know what I want my life to look like. Clara leaned in and kissed him. It looks like this. You, me, 5 impossible children, and this cabin that's too small for all of us. We can build a bigger one. I don't want a bigger one. I want this one. She pulled back to look at him. This is where you found us, Jacob. This is where we became a family. I don't ever want to leave. Jacob's eyes glistened. Then we stay. Forever. Forever. Clara agreed. They sat together on the porch until the stars began to fade and the first light of dawn crept over the mountains. Then Clara went inside to wake her children and begin the journey to Cheyenne. The trial was held in the Territorial Courthouse, a grand building that made Clara feel small and insignificant. She sat in the witness box, Cole's lawyers circling like wolves, asking questions designed to confuse and humiliate her. Mrs. Whitmore, isn't it true that you were destitute when you arrived in Wyoming, that you had no money, No prospects, no means of supporting your children. Yes. And isn't it true that you broke into Mr. Hawkins's property, stole his food? I took potatoes from his cellar, rotten potatoes, to feed my starving children. So you admit to theft? I admit to surviving. The lawyer smiled coldly. And now you're here accusing my client of crimes, hoping to collect a substantial insurance payout. Some might call that convenient, Mrs. Whitmore. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Your client stole my husband's insurance money. He forged documents in my name. He sent men to threaten me and my children. Alleged Mrs. Whitmore. These are allegations. They're facts. Clara's voice hardened. I have 5 children who went hungry because of your client. I have a brother who was beaten and tortured because he wouldn't sell his land. I have... Your Honor, the witness is becoming emotional. I'm becoming honest. Clara stood up in the witness box. Your client is a thief and a fraud and a monster. He preys on widows and orphans. He destroys families. And if this court lets him walk free, he'll do it again. To someone else. Someone who might not survive. The courtroom was silent. Judge Warren looked at her with something like respect. Mrs. Whitmore, he said gently, please sit down. Clara sat. Her hands were shaking, but her voice had been steady. She'd said what she needed to say. The rest was up to the jury. The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, theft, conspiracy, assault, attempted murder. 25 years in federal prison. Clara heard the words and felt nothing. Just emptiness. Just relief so profound it left her hollow. It's over, Thomas said beside her. It's really over. Is it? He's going to prison, Clara. For 25 years. By the time he gets out, he'll be an old man. We'll be... Thomas stopped. Smiled. We'll be living our lives. Happy. Free. Clara looked at her brother, at the scars Cole's men had left on his face, at the strength in his eyes despite everything. I'm sorry, she said, for not being there, for not coming to find you sooner. You had 5 children to keep alive. I'd say you had your hands full. Still. Clara. Thomas took her shoulders. You're here now. That's what matters. We're both here, both alive, both free. He pulled her into a hug. That's everything. Clara held her brother tight and let herself cry. For Matthew, for the months of fear and hunger, for all the things she'd lost and all the things she'd found. When she finally pulled back, Thomas was smiling. Now, he said, let's go home. Home. The word had never sounded so sweet. Clara collected the insurance money the next day. $6,247. More money than she'd ever held in her hands. What are you going to do with it? Thomas asked as they rode back toward Jacob's ranch. Pay off any debts Matthew might have had, real ones. Clara paused. Set aside money for the children's education. All 5 of them. Henry wants to be a lawman. Emma wants to teach. The twins haven't decided yet, but they'll have choices. And Rose. Clara smiled. Rose wants to be a rancher, like Jacob. And what about you? What do you want? Clara thought about it. Really thought for the first time in months. I want to build something, she said finally. Something that lasts. A home. A family. A life that isn't about surviving from one day to the next. You've got all that already. I know. Clara looked at the road ahead. But now I get to keep it. Jacob was waiting on the porch when they arrived. The children spilled out of the cabin, running to meet her, voices overlapping with questions and stories and demands for attention. Mama, you're back. Did the bad man go to prison? Henry taught me to ride a horse. I lost a tooth. Clara gathered them all in her arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Her children. Her impossible, wonderful, beautiful children. I missed you, she said. I missed you so much. We missed you too, Mama. Rose's voice was muffled against Clara's shoulder. But Mr. Jacob took good care of us, just like he promised. Clara looked up at Jacob. He stood on the porch watching them with that soft expression she'd come to love. "Thank you," she said. "Nothing to thank me for. They're my family too." He came down the steps and pulled her to her feet. "Welcome home, Clara." "Home." She tested the word. "I like the sound of that." "Good, because you're stuck with it." He kissed her forehead. "With me. With all of this. I can think of worse things to be stuck with." That night, after the children were asleep and Thomas had settled into the barn, Clara and Jacob sat by the fire together. "I've been thinking," Jacob said. "Dangerous habit. About what you said, before you left, about wanting to stay here, in this cabin. I meant it. I know, but this cabin's too small for 7 people. 8 if Thomas stays. Thomas is going back to his ranch, once he's strong enough. Still, we need more room." Jacob paused. "I was thinking we could build an addition, off the back. 2 more rooms, maybe 3. Enough space for everyone." Clara smiled. "You've been thinking about this a lot." "I've had time." He took her hand. "I've also been thinking about something else." "What?" Jacob reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Clara's heart stopped. "I know I said I'd wait," he said. "I know I said I'd give you time. But life's short, Clara. We both know that. And I don't want to waste another minute pretending I don't want this." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple silver, with a small blue stone that caught the firelight. "It was my mother's," Jacob said. "She gave it to me before she died. Said I should give it to someone who deserved it." He looked at Clara. "I've been waiting 38 years to find that person. I'm done waiting." Clara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Clara Whitmore," Jacob said softly. "Will you marry me?" Clara looked at the ring, at Jacob's face, at the cabin where she'd found shelter and hope and love, when she'd thought she'd never find any of those things again. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes." Stronger now. Certain. "Yes, Jacob Hawkins. I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." He kissed her then deep and slow, and Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just happiness, not just safety. Peace. Real, lasting, bone-deep peace. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, the same stars Matthew had shown Rose when she was small. Inside, a fire crackled, and 2 people who'd lost everything found something new. Something worth fighting for. Something worth living for. And somewhere in a place beyond pain and sorrow, Matthew Whitmore smiled down at his family and knew they would be all right. The wedding was set for spring. Clara wanted to wait until the snow melted, until the land came back to life, until everything felt new and possible. Jacob agreed, though Clara suspected he would have married her that very night if she'd let him. 3 months, he said. That's a long time to wait. You waited 2 years to feel anything again. 3 months won't kill you. Might? Then you'll die a patient man. He laughed at that, a real laugh, deep and warm, and Clara felt her heart swell. She'd done that. She'd made this broken, grieving man laugh again. The weeks that followed were busy with building and planning. Jacob and Thomas worked on the addition to the cabin, adding 2 rooms and a small porch that faced the mountains. The children helped where they could. Henry hauling lumber, Emma organizing supplies, the twins fetching water, Rose supervising everyone with the authority of a tiny general. "The window goes there," Rose declared one afternoon, pointing at the wall. "So Mama can see the sunrise." Jacob looked at Clara. Clara shrugged. "You heard the boss," she said. "Yes, ma'am." Jacob moved the window frame. "Anything else, Miss Rose?" "The door needs to be bigger, for when we have visitors." "We don't have many visitors." "We will. Mrs. Ruth said so. She said once people know Mama's here, they'll come from all over." "For what?" "For school." Rose's voice was matter of fact. Mama's going to teach school, like she did before. Mrs. Ruth said Miller's Creek needs a teacher, and Mama's the best one there is. Clara froze. She hadn't told anyone about Ruth's suggestion, hadn't even thought about it seriously. Rose, where did you hear that? Mrs. Ruth told Mr. George. I was listening. Rose didn't look remotely ashamed. I listen to everything. That's how I know things. That's eavesdropping. That's being smart. Rose grinned. Are you going to do it, Mama teach school? Clara looked at Jacob. He was watching her with that soft expression again. What do you think? She asked. I think you'd be good at it. I think you were good at it before. That was a long time ago. Before life got hard. Before you had to fight to survive. Jacob set down his hammer. But you're not fighting anymore, Clara. You're living. And living means doing things that matter to you. Teaching matters to me. Then do it. It's not that simple. Miller's Creek ran us out. Miller's Creek didn't run you out. Sheriff Grady did. And Grady's gone resigned last month after folks found out he was taking money from Cole. Jacob crossed to her. The town's different now. Better. They need a teacher, and you need something that's yours. Clara thought about it. Really thought. She'd loved teaching. Before Matthew, before the children, before everything fell apart. She'd loved standing in front of a classroom and watching young minds come alive. She'd been good at it too. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I'm asking. But Clara knew herself well enough to know that I'll think about it usually meant I'll do it eventually. And maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time to start wanting things again. The letter arrived 2 weeks later. Clara was hanging laundry when Henry came running from the road, a piece of paper clutched in his hand. Mama! Mama, a letter came. Clara's heart stuttered. Letters meant news. News wasn't always good. Who's it from? I don't know. It's got a fancy seal. Henry handed it over. Is it from the court? Is something wrong with Cole? Clara examined the envelope. The seal was official territorial government, but it wasn't from the court. The return address said governor's office. Go get Jacob, she said. Now. Henry ran. Clara stood there, the envelope growing heavy in her hands. What did the governor want with her? Jacob arrived, breathless Thomas close behind. The children gathered around, watching with worried eyes. Open it, Jacob said. Clara tore the seal and unfolded the letter. Her eyes scanned the words, then scanned them again. Clara, Jacob's voice was tight. What does it say? It says. Her voice broke. She tried again. It says the governor is personally commending me for my courage in testifying against Ezra Cole. It says my testimony was instrumental in securing the conviction. That's good, right? There's more. Clara's hands were shaking now. He says the territorial government wants to establish a new school in Miller's Creek, a proper school with a real building and real supplies. She looked up at Jacob. He wants me to run it. Silence. Then Thomas let out a whoop. Clara, that's incredible. They want to pay me a salary, a real salary, and provide housing for me and the children. Housing? Jacob's voice was careful. You'd have to move. No, the housing is optional, for teachers who don't have a home. Clara laughed, a disbelieving, joyful sound. I have a home. I have... She couldn't finish. The tears came too fast. Jacob pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried. The children piled around them, small hands patting her back. Voices asking if she was okay. I'm okay, she managed. I'm better than okay. I'm happy, Rose supplied. You're happy, Mama. Like in the stories. Yes, baby. Clara wiped her eyes and smiled at her daughter. Just like in the stories. The school opened in April, 1 week after the wedding. Clara stood at the front of the one-room schoolhouse, looking at the 15 children who'd come to learn. Some were from Miller's Creek. Others were from outlying ranches, their parents driving them miles through mud and spring rains just to get an education. "Good morning, class." "Good morning, Mrs. Hawkins." Mrs. Hawkins. Clara still wasn't used to the sound of it. "My name is Clara Hawkins," she said. "I'm going to be your teacher. Some of you might have heard things about me, about where I came from, what happened to me and my family." She paused. "Those stories are true. I was poor. I was desperate. I stole potatoes from a stranger's cellar to keep my children alive." The children stared at her. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked curious. "I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. Where you come from doesn't matter. What you've done before doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you do next." Clara smiled. "You're here to learn. That's what matters. That's all that matters." Emma's hand shot up. Clara nodded at her. "Mrs. Hawkins." Emma grinned at the name. "I mean, Mama. Can I tell them about the cellar? About how you met Papa?" "That's not really appropriate for—" "Please, it's a good story. The best story." Clara looked at her daughter. At the pride in her eyes, the joy in her face. This was the same girl who'd been too scared to sleep alone, too traumatized to trust anyone. And now she wanted to share their story with the world. "All right," Clara said. "But keep it short. We have arithmetic to cover." Emma stood up and faced the class. "My mama found my papa in a cellar," she announced. "She was stealing his potatoes because we were starving, and he caught her, and instead of calling the sheriff, he gave us stew." She paused for dramatic effect. "That's the kind of man my papa is. And that's the kind of woman my mama is. They found each other when everything was broken, and they fixed each other." The children were silent. Then, a little girl in the front row raised her hand. "Is that true?" "Every word," Clara said. "That's the best story I ever heard." "It's a pretty good one," Clara agreed. "Now, let's talk about addition." The spring turned to summer. The summer turned to fall. And Clara Whitmore Hawkins discovered something she'd forgotten existed: contentment. She taught school 5 days a week, coming home to a cabin full of children and a husband who loved her. Jacob worked the ranch with Thomas, who'd decided to stay rather than return to Cheyenne. "What's the point of having land if you've got no one to share it with?" he'd said. "Besides, someone's got to teach those boys how to rope cattle." The twins were his devoted students. They followed him everywhere, asking questions, trying to help, making messes that took 3 people to clean up. Thomas pretended to be annoyed. Everyone knew he loved it. Henry grew taller, stronger, more confident. He'd taken over many of Jacob's chores, giving the older man time to heal from wounds that still ached on cold mornings. "You're not as young as you used to be," Henry told him once. Jacob had cuffed him lightly on the head. "Neither are you, boy. Neither are you." Emma flourished at school, helping Clara with the younger students, showing a gift for patience that surprised everyone. "I want to be a teacher," she announced one night at dinner. "Like Mama." "Then you'll be a good one," Jacob said. "Best one Miller's Creek ever had. After your mama, of course." Rose continued to be Rose, fierce, observant, impossible to fool. She'd started talking to the horses in the barn, holding long conversations that she insisted they understood. "They're good listeners," she explained, "better than the twins." And Clara. Clara learned to breathe again. It wasn't easy. Some nights, she still woke in a cold sweat, dreaming of Cole's men at the door, of hunger and cold, and the endless fear. Some days she looked at her children and felt the weight of everything she'd almost lost. But those moments grew fewer. And the good moments, the ordinary beautiful moments, grew more. Jacob watching her across the breakfast table with that soft look in his eyes. Rose's hand slipping into hers on the walk to school. Henry's voice cracking as he read aloud, trying to hide his embarrassment. Emma's laughter echoing through the cabin. the twins' identical grins when they thought they'd gotten away with something. This was her life now. This was what she'd fought for. And it was worth every bruise, every scar, every moment of despair. The first snow of winter came early that year. Clara was at the school when it started, fat white flakes drifting past the windows while she helped a struggling student with his letters. By the time she dismissed class, the ground was already covered. She found Jacob waiting outside with the wagon. "Thought you might need a ride." "I can walk." "I know you can. Question is whether you want to." He held out his hand. "Come on, I've got something to show you." Clara climbed up beside him, curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "You'll see." They rode in silence through the falling snow. The world was quiet, muffled, peaceful, in a way that always made Clara think of new beginnings. Jacob stopped the wagon at a small rise overlooking the valley. Below, she could see the cabin smoke rising from the chimney, the addition they'd built blending seamlessly with the original structure. She could see the barn, where the horses waited, the corral, where the twins practiced their roping, the garden, where Emma had planted flowers that would bloom again in spring. "What are we doing here?" Clara asked. Jacob climbed down and held out his hand to help her. "I want to show you something. Sarah showed it to me years ago, before she died." Clara let him lead her to a spot where the snow hadn't quite covered the ground yet. There, barely visible beneath the white, were two small markers. "Sarah," Jacob said quietly, "and Lily. This is where I buried them." Clara's throat tightened. "Jacob, I used to come up here every day, talk to them, tell them about my life, even though nothing much happened." He paused. "I haven't been here in months, not since you came." "Why are you bringing me now?" Jacob turned to face her. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Because I wanted them to meet you," he said. "I wanted them to see what their deaths made possible, the good that came from all that pain." "Jacob, I didn't—" "You did, you and those 5 young'uns." He took her hands. "Sarah always said that God doesn't waste suffering, that every broken thing can be made whole again if we let it." His voice cracked. "I didn't believe her. Not for 2 years. Not until I found you in my cellar, half frozen, half starved, ready to fight me for a handful of rotten potatoes." Clara laughed despite herself. "That's your definition of hope. That's my definition of strength, of courage, of everything worth living for." Jacob pulled her close. "I loved Sarah. I'll always love her. But I love you too, Clara. And I think she'd be happy about that. I think she'd say this is exactly what she wanted for me." Clara looked at the 2 small markers, nearly hidden by snow. She thought about the woman who'd lived in her cabin before her, who'd loved her husband, who'd died too young. She thought about the little girl who'd been Rose's age when she took her last breath. "Thank you," Clara whispered. Not to Jacob. To them. "Thank you for sending him to me. Thank you for letting me love him." The wind picked up swirling snow around them. And maybe it was her imagination, but Clara could have sworn she heard something in that wind. A voice, a blessing. Be happy. They stood together in the falling snow, honoring the dead and celebrating the living. Then Jacob led her back to the wagon, and they rode home to their family. Christmas came with all the chaos and joy Clara had learned to expect. The twins fought over who got to put the star on the tree they'd cut from the woods. Emma organized everyone into making decorations. Henry pretended to be too old for such things, but carved a perfect wooden angel when he thought no one was watching. Rose insisted on making a gift for every single person, including the horses. And Jacob watched it all with wonder on his face. "I never thought I'd have this again," he told Clara on Christmas Eve after the children were finally asleep. "A family, a home, people who need me." "We more than need you," Clara said. "We love you." "I know. That's the miracle." He kissed her forehead. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Hawkins." "Merry Christmas, Jacob." They sat by the fire, the same fire that had burned the night she'd stumbled into his life, and watched the embers glow. "I've been thinking," Clara said. "Dangerous habit. About the school, about the children, about everything we've built here. What about it?" "It's not enough." Clara sat up facing him. "There are other families out there. Other widows, other orphans, other people who need help and don't know where to find it. I want to do something. I want to help them." "What did you have in mind?" "I'm not sure yet. Maybe a fund, something like what the insurance company gave me, to help families who've lost everything." Clara's voice grew stronger. "I know what it's like to have nothing, to be turned away, to be judged, to be told you're not worth helping. I want to make sure no one else has to feel that way." Jacob was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You know what Sarah would say about that?" "What?" "She'd say it's about time someone did something. And she'd say you're exactly the right person to do it." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "You think so?" "I know so." Jacob took her hand. "Whatever you want to do, Clara, I'll help. Thomas will help. The whole town will help once they know what you're planning." "It won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing ever is." Clara leaned against him, watching the fire dance. She thought about the year behind her, the hunger, the fear, the endless fighting just to survive. She thought about the year ahead, the challenges, the opportunities, the chance to make a difference. And she thought about the woman she'd been standing in a cellar with stolen potatoes ready to die to protect her children. She wasn't that woman anymore. She was someone new, someone stronger, someone who'd been broken and put back together and emerged better than before. "I love you," she said. "I love you too. I know, but I wanted to say it anyway, because there was a time when I thought I'd never say those words again, when I thought love was something that happened to other people, not to me. And now? Now I know better." Clara smiled. "Now I know that love doesn't end. It just changes. It finds new forms, new faces, new ways to grow." She looked at him. "Matthew will always be part of me. But you're part of me too, and so are those 5 children sleeping upstairs. We're a family, Jacob. A real family." "The best kind of family," Jacob agreed. "The kind that chose each other." They stayed by the fire until it burned down to coals. Then Jacob carried Clara to bed. She protested, laughing, but didn't fight too hard, and they fell asleep in each other's arms. Outside, the snow fell soft and steady. Inside, a family slept, dreaming of the future. Spring came early the next year. Clara was standing on the porch when she saw them, the first flowers pushing through the thawing ground. Little purple crocuses, brave and stubborn, exactly like the children who'd planted them the fall before. "Mama, look!" Rose came running from the garden, a flower clutched in her hand. "They grew just like you said." "Of course they grew. Things grow when you take care of them. Even broken things." Clara knelt down to her daughter's level. "Especially broken things, sweetheart. Broken things just need a little more love, a little more patience. But they can become the strongest, most beautiful things of all." Rose considered this with her usual seriousness. Then she held out the flower. "This one's for you, for being the best mama in the whole world." Clara took the flower, her eyes burning with tears. "Thank you, baby." "Don't cry, Mama." "I'm not crying. I'm just—" Clara laughed through her tears. "I'm just happy." Happy crying. The happiest kind. Rose grinned and ran off to find her siblings, leaving Clara alone on the porch with a single purple flower and a heart so full it ached. She looked out at the land, her land now hers and Jacob's, and remembered all the places she'd been before. The cabin in Colorado where she'd watched Matthew die. The endless roads she'd walked with 5 starving children. The cellar where she'd hit bottom and found unexpected grace. She thought about the woman she'd been, then desperate, broken, held together by nothing but stubbornness and love. And she thought about the woman she was now, a wife, a mother, a teacher, a friend. Someone who'd survived the worst and found her way to something better. Someone who'd learned that help wasn't weakness, that love could heal, that second chances were possible for anyone brave enough to take them. Jacob appeared beside her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "Penny, for your thoughts." "I was thinking about that night in the cellar. The night you found me. That was a good night. I thought it was the worst night of my life. And now—" Clara leaned into him, breathing in the scent of spring and new beginnings. "Now I know it was the best, because it led me here. To you. To this." She gestured at the cabin, at the land, at the children playing in the distance. "To everything." Jacob kissed the top of her head. No regrets. Not a single one. They stood together, watching their family, watching their life, watching the future unfold before them, like the endless Wyoming sky. Clara Whitmore had come to this place with nothing but 5 hungry children and a handful of stolen potatoes. She'd found shelter in a stranger's cellar and warmth in a broken man's heart. She'd fought for survival when the world told her to give up. She'd loved again when love seemed impossible. And now, standing on the porch of the home she'd built, surrounded by the family she'd chosen, she understood something she'd never understood before. The hardest winters always lead to the brightest springs. And the broken things, the things everyone else throws away, those are the things that bloom the most beautiful of all. Clara looked down at the purple flower in her hand. She thought about Rose's question. Even broken things. Yes, she thought. Even broken things. Especially broken things. She tucked the flower behind her ear and walked down the steps to join her family. Her heart full, her soul at peace, her story finally perfectly complete. Clara Whitmore Hawkins had started with nothing. She ended with everything. And that made all the difference.